Hey
Hey,
Zach, how are you?
good. How are you?
Good. We're back with our art talks now. Super excited to do another one. Who do we
Yeah.
have today?
Uh, can you say his name?
I can't, even though in Chinese I might butcher it, but Chien Chung Wei, I think. I might have gotten the accents wrong. I hope no person makes me feel bad. But yeah, he's a watercolorist from Taiwan. And yeah, I actually took his workshop back in 2015, and I actually have one of his paintings, not my background, but I have a painting hanging up in my real space. And his workshop was amazing. And he's just such a lively person. Really, just the way he plays with his brushstrokes is amazing. But I thought what was really cool was I kind of saw his style almost evolving more lately. Maybe that's just my personal opinion, into something a little bit more graphic, almost, I don't know, like in a way, not stylized, what's the word? But I guess just a little more graphic. And I thought that was really cool. And so thought he'd be a really fun one to talk about.
Is this a more recent piece? Do you know?
Yeah, I think this is so. I actually just grabbed some images off of his Instagram. So if you guys go on his Instagram, I think it's if you type in Chien Chung Wei, it should pop up. But yeah, these are some of his more recent pieces for sure. And yeah, I mean, when I saw these pieces on Instagram, I remember thinking, wow, like this just so impactful. It just hits you as something refreshing and something daring, I think. And I thought it'd be cool to dive into maybe exactly why we both like this piece so much. Talking about, getting value and composition, light and shadow, and color and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Um,
And edges too. I mean, like, look at those edges. Gosh,
yeah, it's something I really like about his stuff, the edges. You let's break this down to value first.
for
And
sure, for sure.
so I turned it to black and white,
Nice.
simplify it. Um, and well, if what drew me to this piece was this pathway of
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
Everything just pulls,
Yeah.
draws you to where you're supposed to look.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Yeah.
everything else is just like one simple value pretty much. There's a few darks
Right.
that kind of like bounce your eye through the piece, but it's like middle gray. And then, so if you were gonna like
Very simple value structure.
uh, you were gonna like really simplify this,
Ooh, Zach's doing another demo. I love it.
I don't know if you can call this a demo, but the whole piece would be like
hmm
gray like this, and then you'd
hmm
have these
Yeah.
light spots,
Yeah.
and then you pick out just a couple of these dark areas.
Right. And I like how you said the dark areas bounce your way, like you're kind of bouncing your way through. One thing that I always notice in pieces, I don't know if you do, but I'm always noticing the proportion of shapes. So, is there a good proportion of big, medium, and small shapes? And I just love how all the light shapes that lead your eye through, they're all unique and specific. That's actually something I got from Kwang Ho. I'll credit him. I watched one of his workshops, and something he said that always stuck with me was the shapes you put in your painting should be unique and specific. So like unique, not repeating themselves, but also specific to what you're painting or drawing, right? To your subject matter. And so I think a lot of times, like, I don't know about you, but for me, if I'm not thinking intentionally about what I'm putting down, I tend to like put the same blobby shapes. I'm like, oh man, they look kind of the same or they're the same size. And so I think in this case, even though you've blurred it, you can still see, all those light shapes leading your way through. Yeah, is is really intentional. And yeah, I really like also how you broke down the ratio of mediums, darks, and lights. And even, oh, this is your screen, but so I don't think they can see my cursor, but like even, how the darker shapes get smaller and smaller as you recede into space, that creates perspective. And so I don't know what you think about this, but my theory, because I'm not great at perspective, is like, oh, you can kind of cheat perspective by paying attention to the size of your shapes and where you place them. And that's something I like to figure out in matrix studies. But yeah, I mean, look at even this sorry, this crisp version. Can I just share how beautiful those tapered lines are? Like, God, they're just so beautiful in the light shapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you're drawing the
Thing
perspective
about
grids, you can see.
perspective is just
Yes.
having like it's totally faked. Like you just pick a couple lines that follow that perspective,
Yeah. Yeah.
like here and here,
Yeah.
uh, and then that's all you need to like make it feel um, like it's going back into space and it's accurate.
Right. Right. I'm just obsessed with like those thin lines, like on the bridge, like the toplet, kind of those cascading tapered lines, in the light shapes that kind of lead your eye through. And even at the very top, of the houses, I guess, where he's just basically, yeah, there and yeah, right there. It's like very thin light shapes, just kissing the top of the rooftop. Like all those shapes, I think really matter because yeah, thank you. Yeah, because they describe form in some way or another.
Mhm.
And, it might not be super noticeable, but it helps to cascade your eye throughout the painting.
Yeah, it's like when you're drawing a crowd of people, you can't draw 100 people. It's not practical to do that
Right.
as an artist. You have to draw a few people and then imply big masses. So like drawing
Right.
buildings and then this is all just implied, but because there's buildings here, we understand that as they go back,
Yes.
there's atmosphere and they simplify and we just see like the silhouettes.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I love the play. I mean, at a whole, like the play of light and dark, like how the tree trunks. Actually, oh, can you circle the top right value? Sorry, not top right. The very right area right there. You see how the tree trunk is light? Or you were at the right side of the painting. You see how that tree trunk right there is light and then it goes dark? Isn't
Mhm.
that called counterchange?
Oh, I don't know what the term is.
Yeah, I think it's called counterchange. Edward Seago does this a lot too, but that's kind of an effective way to kind of, I guess, play on these light dark patterns, even though it, might not, I guess, physically or literally make sense. Yeah, exactly. Now, yes, there too, those really, really thin lines. Like, I think that is so beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Um, and then edges.
Oh yeah, there's so many beautiful edges in this painting. Just like even where he thought to lose the edges, like in the foreground trees, and then even the foreground pillar thing, or I don't know what you call it, the balcony, like how that edge is lost and shadow right there.
mhm.
I just think it's it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I think like he takes edges like to the max, like pushes them like probably further than any other artist. Like this tree just having like a hard edge,
Yeah,
and then just letting it be like completely lost.
yeah,
And and
yeah,
then it's balanced with these like little trees and things.
yeah.
Um,
And the thing with watercolors, I'm not a watercolor expert, but I feel like you have to plan these things in advance, right? Because otherwise, it's very hard to get that crisp edge. Again, I'm not a watercolor expert, but I think this took very precise planning, in order for him to really figure out where to have those crisp edges and then where to really let it go. Um, but it's definitely so bold. Oh, I was gonna say another thing and then I forgot. Um, Hopefully it'll come back to me. Oh, I wanted to ask you a question. How do you think about edges in your own paintings because well, I get a lot of questions from students and they go, "Oh, like is losing edges the way to be painterly?" And I always thought it's not so much having a bunch of lost edges, it's actually the juxtaposition and the contrast of having hard and soft edges, which I think is what can help give that painting, that painterly look. Although I never strive for that when I paint. But what he's doing here, I ask you because what he's doing here is kind of how I think about edges. Like if you notice all the parts of the planes being hit with light are harder, right? And then all the parts that are in shadow, not all, but maybe some of them, um, are softer, like the edge, like the arches, in the buildings aren't exactly hard edge, right? They're softer compared to the planes of the rooftops and light. Yeah, like that's softer. And yes, and as you go in the distance, they get softer and softer, with atmospheric perspective. So how he handles edges is to me, in my interpretation, very similar to how I think about edges as well. Because I get that question a lot with students. Like, I don't get where to put hard and soft edges. Um, but I tend to think of it that way. Like edges in light have a crisper edge, and then the ed part of the shape receding in shadow will have a softer edge.
Hmm. Yeah,
Obviously, that can be broken.
that's interesting. I haven't thought about it that way. Usually I just think about it as like you're doing a painting and the painting as a whole, like as an abstract piece of art, it
Hmm.
has to have soft and hard edges to lead your eye around.
Right.
So
Hmm.
I use edges just purely to lead your eye.
Okay, okay, cool. I love that. So, I just love hearing different ways of thinking about edges. That's really cool. Yeah.
'Cause this soft edge, it like allows your eye to just come up here.
Hmm.
Here, this hard edge we need because it pulls us back into the piece.
Hmm.
These soft edges, if this was really crisp, it would draw too much attention and then our eye
Hmm.
would just go out this way. But because
Hmm.
it's soft, it allows us um to get pulled back around and be drawn into
Yeah.
these harder edges. So it's just like a nice like balance in the flow.
Right. Okay. Okay. That's really cool. That's really cool. Um, yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it as well. I think I also think about it that way. Maybe just, I don't know, I guess maybe not as much. I'm not sure, but that definitely gives me food for thought.
You
Uh,
probably like your brain probably is just doing that automatically.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, once you see enough and practice enough, I think it's like you don't think twice, right? Like you know that it needs to be a soft edge or you know that needs to be a medium edge kind of thing. Um, and I think that's when that efficiency in painting builds up. But where I'm deviating back to edges in this painting.
Yeah. No, I think that's great.
I also
Um,
just love those middle trees right there. I just love that fresh green. Uh uh, you know, like I just, yeah, the fresh green of those trees right in the middle, it just offers like a really nice contrast with a lot of those earthier tones.
yeah, that's a like there's a lot of grays.
Yeah, a lot of grays. Yeah.
And then he's using this, I think this is the most saturated color in the piece, these greens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that draws our eye.
That's a really good point. And touching on color on this piece before we move on to the next one, it's not a saturated piece. And I just love to debunk that thing where like people think they need saturated color to make a piece interesting. And this piece has virtually, like, can you color pick that green again? I just want to see where it lies.
Yeah,
Uh,
light green or
yeah, just like the most saturated kind of area. Because I bet you it's not even that saturated. Like
yeah,
it's
it's kind
not as saturated as it's like still in the middle. It's not like on the right end of the spectrum.
of, mhm.
Um, Actually, could you put a really saturated green on the canvas and see what happens?
Yeah. Uh,
Just by contrast to highlight that colors exist in relationships.
so like out of the tube, saturated.
Yeah. Oh, that actually kind of, well, it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, probably if you like put it in more subtly, then
Yeah, if you put in subtly. So it does work. I thought it was gonna stand out really crazy. Um, but my point was, this whole painting is beautiful because I think there's beautiful subtle temperature shifts, between the warms and those, kind of more earthy tones. And I think one thing that I remember from his workshop that I took was he was super playful when he was painting. And I think he'd be like, oh, I might be remembering this wrong. So I'm sorry if I'm butchering, but this is what I remember. He said, oh, it needs to be cooler. Okay, mix a little bit more blue. And he just keep kind of mixing blue or yellow ochre or burnt sienna and kind of just obviously he was really good at the amount and controlling it, but he just made it look so easy. Um, and I think this painting, kind of harkens to that. Um, he's still following the rules of atmospheric perspective. But like in the center, I really like that yellow ochre kind of bathing in through the trees and up at the top. Yeah, right there in the background, like a light yellow ochre, ish color. Yeah, those are all really cool as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we
But the
move on?
next piece, yeah, the next piece I was gonna say is the opposite, right? You want to talk about this piece a little bit?
Yeah, I like this one a lot because well, it's something that I've been kind of fascinated with and trying to like push in my own work using a lot of gray. Um, and then using saturation only where um, it makes sense and
Yeah, yeah.
like how to draw your eye. Um, so like if you want to feel like the impact of this saturation, you have to have
Mhm.
something less saturated or like more gray to make that color feel really.
Right.
So all these buildings are like really cool grays. Like if you look up here, it's all within, we're all like right in this area. Um,
Yeah.
and then this
The
the
yellow
sky
just
is
pops.
like
Yeah.
max saturation. Then if you put all those grays around the that yellow, it
Yeah,
has the yellow has impact now. Um, let's try.
exactly.
Let's see if we can image adjustments. We could replace color. We could maybe select this and then let's like
Oh,
saturate.
wow. Yeah, that's a little much. That's too much.
Yeah, now the sky doesn't have that impact. This is actually still really cool. I like it for different reasons,
Yeah, yeah, that is cool. It's true. It is so cool. Yeah.
but
Maybe some pops of it would be cool in certain areas.
it's a different
Yeah.
thing. It's
Oh, wow. Look at that. Oh, wow. So you're playing. Ooh, that becomes a monochromatic painting now, or kind of analogous.
yeah.
That almost feels like a different kind of day now, time of day.
Yeah, now it could be like morning. The sun is like coming in here.
Yeah. Such a cool hack as well. I need to use that replace color thing more.
Oh yeah. Um,
But that's cool. I just want to take a moment. Yeah, I mean, it definitely works. And the reason why it works is because the value, I think, still works.
mhm.
It's just like comes to down to what you think personal preference, I think sometimes, you know, like do you like the play of saturation and desaturation, or, you want to amp it up all around a little bit? I think maybe that comes to personal preference. What do you think?
Yeah, it's preference and I don't know, it reminds me of like when we work on movies, like the feedback a lot of times when we're working on like color keys or something, they're like, "Oh, we want more saturation." And then you get the note to make all these colors more saturated and
Mhm.
you just make a piece that's like full saturation and it's just
Mhm.
there's no like subtlety to it. So
Right, right,
really appreciate about this is like making a smart choice and like letting things be gray and then letting the story be about that like yellow sky because that's
right.
what's because if we do this, oh it's still a cool image like if it's
Ah,
and there's like lots of stuff going on like it might be cool but as a viewer what's important. Like we don't really know. Is it the building or is it the sky?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Now it's about the sky and maybe this doorway or something.
Yeah, actually, yeah, the doorway, like that figure there, he like I think he does that with quite a few of his paintings, but yeah, about the doorway and the sky. I think it's asking yourself what you want the narrative of the story to be about. So I think that's a good point. Yeah. I also just love the thin application of paint. I think that's really cool. Like the building feels more translucent than the sky, just in terms of texture and application.
You know,
Yeah.
I love to see a bit of like how an artist builds up a painting.
I
Uh,
know. Yeah.
do you do that in your digital stuff?
Do I do what? Do I?
Do you try to leave like some of the process in your painting in
Oh
your digital?
yeah, yeah. I think always. I think and especially for my gouache paintings, like sometimes I think when I started gouache in the beginning, I was always covering up everything. But now I'm trying to get better at, leaving places where I know I like that rawness and not cover everything up. But yeah, I always tell people like my digital paintings, a lot of it is just like I'll erase some of my later layers, and a lot of it's just my foundational block in because I like some of the spontaneity in that. So definitely I think it's a combo of both. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about that. That's something
Yeah, yeah.
like um erasing
Yeah,
erasing
I
out.
remember we talked about that. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like the best of both worlds. Yeah.
All right, last image.
Yeah, I think this was one of his latest images, and I shared it in my stories recently. It's another one that was like, wow, like so impactful. And again, not a lot of color. Not a lot of I to me there's a lot of color. It's just not a lot of saturation. I should clarify that. But what do you like about this piece? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Um, I like the design of the composition a lot. Um, it's You've got this shape and the floor that draws us to this window.
Yeah,
And, um, and then we have lights that just hit a few of these of the top planes that kind of
yeah,
describe some forms.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I really like that. I think
yeah,
it's really like simple and smart. Like he grouped all this into shadow,
yeah,
you know, very, very smartly.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And again, this is kind of more of would you say like a mid-gray piece, right? There are some dark accents, but a lot of it is around mid-gray, a little darker than mid-gray. And the light is the minority, which makes it even more special for the places that are kissed with light. I think it was Mike Hernandez who told me this. I can't remember who, but it was like if the painting is mostly dark, the area in light, like the area kissed with light will just be even more special. And then maybe vice versa for a painting that's mostly light, maybe we might draw our attention a little bit more to the shadow areas. So I think to me it's like I'm looking at the book, I'm looking at the all the delicacies like the vase, the couches, kind of all these small details. Yeah.
mhm.
It's almost like he's carving with light to me in this painting.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Like um you're being specific with the light. So where you put the light is very special and you look there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, for sure. And also actually looking in the bottom left corner, it seems like he didn't finish that bookshelf or something. Like I kind of really like how it's left maybe hitting the light that I don't know the sheen or something, but I thought that was really cool. And then the
yeah.
texture of the splatter effect. I mean, that adds something as well. I'm very fascinated with texture, and I know you play a lot with that in your own paintings. I'm personally wanting to play with it more. I tend to use the same like four brushes because of work, and then sometimes lately I've been challenging myself to use brushes that I don't usually use. And it's a little bit harder than I thought, but I just love how the splatter, it's not everywhere. It's just in some places, kind of that light, dark aspect to give you this, I don't know, grittiness or something. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't distract you. It's kind of an addition, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It messes up some of the things that aren't as important, you know?
Right, 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 right. Which I actually want to ask you now. Uh, quick question. How do you think about using texture in your paintings? Because I feel like your latest paintings are really playing around with that fun texture, whether it be, using photos or using, I don't know what you do, but like playing with brushes, all these cool techniques that I don't know. So I'm using this opportunity to learn from you.
Yeah, I think about texture similar to how I think about edges. So
Where you want the eye to go to.
yeah, I'm always painting um these like abstract textural
Ooh.
like little paintings
Uh-huh.
and a lot of times I'll like take these and um I'll build my paintings out of these. So like I'll take this,
Uh-huh.
put it in here, and then I could add it to my painting.
Oh, so you put it on darken or some adjustment layer mode or something?
Yeah, sometimes I mess around with those. I've always been like really against using those, but like lately I've been kind of experimenting with it and seeing like what kind of effects I can get just because I'm trying to like push myself out of like my comfort zone and stuff.
Oh, wait,
Uh,
wait, I didn't know this about you. You've been against using adjustment modes?
yeah,
Like
I
the
really haven't touched these for like 15 years of using Photoshop until
Wow, you're a
7 months ago.
purist.
Yeah, I would just paint everything from um, you know, just changing the this. Um, but yeah,
Oh.
that's kind of like how I've been playing with textures lately.
All
And
right, exact tip on texture. Use the adjust. I'm gonna try that too now. I actually haven't thought of adding texture on a separate layer because I will play with textures and I'll, overlay or sometimes play around, but that's a smart idea to do it on a separate canvas and then drag it over to see. Grayscaled, I think, is the trick to, really separate the texture. Um, oh, look at that. Zach is winging it. He's improvising.
another thing I'll do is I'll like be like I'll select like those lights.
Uh-huh.
Um, so now I've got
Oh.
this cool little like shape. And then if you select the contents of your layer, command, and then click the layer, and then
Uh-huh.
H to hide, then you can paint into those.
Wait, what? Oh, okay. You're just painting into that texture, into that shape.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I see. And then you can get a little bit more variation in that as well. Can you also clip mask it as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. If you select the contents of the layer, you use clipping mask, whatever is easier.
Okay. That's really cool. That's a really cool way to kind of get out of your comfort zone. I was kind of doing something similar. I was talking to Daniel, your friend, about it. And I was playing around with these abstract paintings on Rebel and trying to also experiment with. Have you used Rebel before?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of unpredictable, and I purposely didn't want to watch any tutorials about it because I just wanted to play around and see what this brush does and that brush does. But yeah, it's a really cool program. And what was I saying? Yeah, it's just kind of like also playing with textures and this and that, and then I would bring it in, and then I would use some of those textures similar to what you did, overlay it. And I think it's just like some things you just wouldn't think of. And so I think those are really cool processes to break up your usual workflow. So I think that's a really great tip.
I gotta try that, like use Rebel and then do the same, a similar process, like put it in.
Yeah, yeah, because they have like these really cool drip effects. I don't even remember which paintbrush it was, but it like real time drips. I was amazed. I think Corel Painter might have done that too, but I haven't used Corel Painter in years. But I was like, oh my gosh. And then you can like blow a fan on it or something and it kind of dries. But I was like, this is so crazy. Like when it started moving in my canvas, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So I did a couple of quick sketches, which helped me like gouache paintings. So I did like digital sketches and then some gouache paintings. But yeah, check out Rebel. That's another really cool program.
Mhm. I've
Yeah.
been using heavy paint a lot and
Oh yeah, I love heavy paint. Yeah.
strips and like doing similar thing to what you're saying with Rebel.
Oh, so you build these textures and then import it over?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. Yeah, heavy paint. I really like the simplicity of heavy paint and just I think it caters to our styles well, like just having those simple blocky shapes to push into more abstractness. I think I always have fun with that. Like kind of you don't know where the painting's gonna go, and it's like actually, side note, I've been trying to do what Azusa does, and because she does those phone paintings, which is crazy, and I'm going to Germany soon. And I'm like,
Uh,
okay, I'll probably be too cold to like set up a painting. I mean, I'm still gonna bring my paint supplies. And I tried doing paintings on my phone, and it's freaking hard. I was like, how does she do that? So I'm like, I need to practice more. But I'm trying to just do heavy paint photo. I was like, Azusa, teach me. It's hard. Even, even I'm good at thumbnail paintings. I'm like, I don't know if it's my finger. I might need to get a pen or something, but try it out there, folks. It's harder than it looks. So really great way to practice simplification, I guess.
yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about these paintings?
I don't think so. Um,
Okay. I think, yeah, guys, if you guys don't know Chien Chung Wei, definitely, I'd recommend he has a DVD that's out. Also a book of his. I can't remember where I got it, and unfortunately, it's all in Chinese, but it's still really worth it to look at the paintings. But yeah, I think he's a really great one to study. So yeah,
just read with Google Translate.
that's
I,
true. That's true. Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, I can hold up the phone. Yeah, to do that. Yeah, I just look at the paintings for that one. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Zach. We'll see who we come up with next.
yeah, thank you.
Bye, guys.
See ya.